This second part is going to be longer than expected, but I hope you enjoy it all the same. With the basic shape of each knuckle joint formed, I could continue by marking out the individual fingers. When marking out the waist portions in something like this, I find it's important, also with dovetails, to line them up side by side so that you can ensure you're marking out the correct pieces before you cut them. Now, when I was taught how to make this joint back at college, we cut everything by hand pretty much, but on this occasion I'm quite confident in what I'm doing, so I'm going to use my bandsaw to make it a bit easier. I was confident enough to make these cuts without a stop block behind, and I could just trust my eye, but if you're doing it for the first time, using a stop block behind the blade would be quite a good idea. Prevent overcutting. This is where it begins to feel a lot like hand cutting dovetail joints. Again, I use the bandsaw because it makes light work of cutting through a hardwood like elm. This is not the purest way of cutting this joint. What I did at college was to use a hollow chisel mortiser to remove the waste between the fingers, but my machine was too short for the length of these workpieces, so here I'm using a pillar drill instead. Because the ends will be visible on the finished joint, I'm using a gouge with a bevel on the inside face to clean up the ends. With the bulk of the waste removed from the centre, you can use a chisel held upside down in a scraping action to form a curve in between each finger. This was my first test to see how well the joints would fit. Being very pleased with the fit at this point, I decided to pre-finish the pieces with Danish oil because it'd be harder to get inside once the joint is assembled. Here I'm getting ready to drill a hole in the centre of each joint, which will act as a pivot point to allow the joint to function. It's important to drill this hole through both sides of the joints so you get less breakout, and also so you can have a better chance of getting the central hole. Otherwise you will need at least a very long drill bit. This was the all-important test fit of the brass rod. And just there, that dull thud means that it hit something inside the joint, meaning the holes aren't connecting perfectly in the centre. So my first attempt to rectify this was to ream the hole out in the centre with a different sized drill bit. And as you will see, that worked well for one joint. But on this second knuckle joint, I decided to simply enlarge the two holes in the two central pins, which won't be seen once the joint is assembled. Once each joint is assembled, you can refine the curves using hand planes. It is only once I am happy with both joints that I attempt to cut each component to its final length. And you can now see how these compound miters oppose each other. In order to maintain a splay in the finished stool, I decided to taper the top half of each joint, which will be fixed directly underneath the seat of the finished stool. With the exception of the brass bar used as a pivot point on this stool, I wanted no metal or mechanical fixings to be shown, so these tapered pieces were simply glued to the underside of the top. With the glue dry, I could clean up both ends on my miter saw. I have never owned an actual metal working vise, so this has always been my method for cutting metal. Then it was time for a second coat of Danish oil, and I think I went on to apply a third and fourth coats before calling this project complete. Well, here is the finished stool, almost 2 years after I made it. As you can see, it turned out very well. It looks very good. If I could change one thing though, I'd make this top piece slightly longer so I can move these two outwards. And the reason for that is because when you fold it inwards, They slightly overlap, and yeah, it's quite annoying. Ideally they sit flush against this, but you can see there's a good 3 inches there. I need to gain in width before I could do that. Otherwise, it works well, it's sturdy, it holds my weight, it's comfortable, does what I need. So thank you for watching, please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Oh shit. Oh, for fuck's sake.